Welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK, and today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a pair of soles. This video is to show you how to crochet the size for UK adults 5 to 6, US adults size 7 to 8, European adults size 35 to 39, and that would be suitable for a foot length of up to 9 inches. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you never miss out on another one of my crochet patterns or tutorials again. If you are looking for a different sized crocheted sole, head to the link in the description box where you'll be taken to a new playlist that has all the soles you need. Well, all the adult ones at least for now. More will be added as time goes on. Now the materials that I'm going to be using today is going to be these PaintBox Yarns Simply Chunky, and you can use any material that you want to. These are going to be used for a pair of slippers, which is my slouchy slipper boot pattern. If you are going to be making these for a pair of sandals, you might want to find a yarn or a twine that is the same size as a chunky weight yarn. This is quite a large ball of twine, but it does the trick and it works really well for sandals. Now this is a size 5 bulky weight yarn and it is 100% acrylic. For me, slippers are going to be on the floor. No matter how clean your house is, the bottom of those slippers or these soles will not be. So they are machine washable. You can chuck them in the tumble dryer. I wouldn't personally, but they do dry nice and easily. We are going to be using the recommended hook size, which is a 6mm crochet hook today with this size. And that's pretty much it. If you're following along with the slouchy slipper pattern, you are going to need a couple of stitch markers as well, because we are going to mark where we fasten off at the end of the video as well. So if you're making these slouchy slipper boots, regardless, I would say for any shoe that you're making, it really is worth making 2 pairs per foot, because they are balanced and they kind of just sit nicely next to each other. It just gives you an extra bit of cushioning, and if you're using that twine, it just means that your foot isn't against, the bottom of the... You don't have to line it with material or anything like that to keep it soft to wear. So gather your materials and let's get started. So we are making the adult size 5 to 6, which is a US size 7 to 8. Let me double check now I've said that. Yep, 7 to 8. And the European size is 38 to 39. I'm just starting by placing a slip knot onto my hook, which is my 6mm crochet hook. This is a Furls hook. It was the Peppermint Swirl. It was a special edition for Christmas, I think a couple of years ago, and I couldn't resist it. The red's kind of faded a bit, but I think it looks almost more antique-y like this. But anyway, so yes, I'm going to be making 4 of these in this size to proceed on to making a pair of slippers that are going to be gifted to my mum. So to start, once you have your slip knot on your hook, we're going to start by making a chain of 20. So we yarn over the hook and bring it through to create that chain, and we do that 20 times. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. So once you have your chain of 20, we're going to continue with round 1. We're going to start by working into that second chain from hook. So this is your loop on your hook that never counts as a stitch or a chain. Here's the first chain, and we're going underneath that top loop because we are going to be working on both sides of our chain today. So all we need to do is to insert our hook underneath that second chain from hook, just that top loop, and we're going to work 1 US single crochet, which is the same as a UK double crochet. We're going to work a second US single crochet into the same stitch or chain. So we're going to reinsert our hook into that same hole, yarn over and bring that loop up to yarn over and pull through 2 again. So we now have 2 US single crochets or 2 UK double crochets. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 10 chains. And again, we're just going underneath this top loop so that we can work back along our chain on the other side once we've reached it. So we're going underneath that top loop to pick it up, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So that was 1, 2, 3, 9, and there's number 10. We're then going to work 1 US half double crochet, which is the same as a UK half treble crochet, into the next 6 chains. So we yarn over the hook before we insert it. We're going underneath that top loop again. Insert your hook, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and we're doing that for the next 6 stitches. So that was number 1, 2, 3 and 6. At this point you should still have, if I can get my hook through this last one, you should still have 2 chains remaining, and into this next one here we're going to be working 2 half double crochets. So we're yarning over and inserting, completing the first half double crochet, and we're working a second half double crochet into that same chain. So we have 2 in that chain, and then into our final chain where our slip knot is, we're going to be working 4 US half double crochets. So we yarn over and insert for number 1, and again for number 2, and already you can see that I'm kind of turning my project, so I'm working around. I'm going to end up working down the other side. So we yarn over for number 3, making sure that I work over this knot to keep the hole as small as possible, and then finally number 4. So we've rotated our work so we can work along the other side of our chain, and what we're looking for now is where the chain almost becomes a cross and it's opposite the stitch. So that's a bit too obvious, but for this less obvious one you can see that there is a cross and you're going underneath that cross to insert your hook. So this is the next space that we're going to insert our hook here, and in here we're going to be working 2 US half double crochets. So that was yarning over, inserting, pull through, and then pull through all 3. So that was number 1, and I'll grab my tail and work over that as well for number 2. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. So that's 1, looking for those crosses to insert our hook under, number 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We're then going to work 1 single crochet or UK double crochet into the next 10 chains. So again, just continuing to work underneath those crosses of the other side of the chain. So that's number 1, 2, 9 and 10. And then back into this last one, we're going to work a further 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and 2. At the end of round 1, you should have a stitch count of 44 stitches, which is made up of 24 single crochets and 20 half double crochets. We're going to join this round by inserting our hook underneath that first single crochet that we made, picking up both of those loops and slip stitching to join. So just pull through and straight through the loop on your hook. And that completes round 1. Going into round 2, we start with a chain of 1. Now this chain 1 does not count as a stitch here or throughout the pattern. We're then going to work 2 single crochets into each of the next 2 stitches. So we're going to work into this stitch directly underneath our chain 1, and we're going to be placing 2 single crochets. So we insert our hook for number 1 and then reinsert our hook into the same stitch again for the second stitch. And we do the same, repeating that in our second stitch along. So that's 1, and go back into the same stitch for number 2. So we're then going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 13 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 13. I'm going to double check my stitch count to make sure that I have 13 single crochets after this increased stitch, because I want to make sure that my stitch count is spot on. The slightest difference in this pattern and it throws the next round out, so we just need to be double checking our stitch counts all the time. We're then going to work 1 US half double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. So remembering, for the half double crochet we yarn over the hook and insert, bring our loop up and pull through all 3 loops. So that was number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're then going to work 2 half double crochets into each of the next 4 stitches. So we yarn over and insert our hook into the next stitch, bring our loop up and pull through 3, and then we work a second stitch exactly the same into the same stitch. So that was number 1. Here's number 2. Again, we're increasing by working 2 half double crochets. So that's 2, and number 1, and number 2 for the 3rd time, and finally number 1 and number 2 for the 4th time. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. So we yarn over and insert, bring our loop up, pull through all 3. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 13 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3. And at this point, after those 13 single crochets, we should still have 2 stitches remaining, and we're going to be working 2 single crochets into each of the last 2 stitches. So that's number 1 and number 2, and then repeat that again in the last stitch, working 2 single crochets again. So at the end of round 2, you should now have a stitch count of 52, and you can see that your sole is getting a little bit bigger. So we're going to skip our slip stitch and skip that chain 1 before we slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round to join, and then we are ready to continue into round 3. We start by making a chain of 1. We're then going to work 2 single crochets into the next 3 stitches, making sure we work directly into that stitch underneath that chain 1. That's 1 and 2. 2 single crochets into the next, 1 and 2, and for a 3rd time we work 2 single crochets again, and 2. We're then going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 13 stitches. So that's 1 and 2, 3. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into the next 7 stitches. So we yarn over the hook and insert into the next stitch. That's 1, 2, and number 7. We're then going to work 2 half double crochets into each of the next 2 stitches. So that's 1, and work a second one into the same stitch, and repeat that for the next stitch. So that's 1 and 2. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, and number 4, before we work 2 half double crochets into the next 2 stitches. So that's 1 and 2, and in the next we'll do the same with 1 and 2. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. So that's 1, 2. Once we've completed those 7 half double crochets, we're going to be working 1 single crochet into each of the next 13 stitches. So that's 1, 2, and 13. We should have 1 stitch remaining, which is where we're going to be working 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and 2. Once again, we're going to slip stitch by ignoring our slip stitch and our chain 1 from the start of the round, and inserting our hook underneath that first single crochet that we made and slip stitching to join. So at the end of round 3, you should now have a stitch count of 60. Now you can see that my tension isn't quite as even as I would like it to be. If I make, see, it looks like I've got a curve here, but it's just the way these stitches have been adjusted by my tension. So if I flatten it out properly, you can see that it's actually the same on both sides. Try not to worry too much if, like me, your tension has meant that your stitches look wider over here. By the time we've worked our final round, it'll all even out. Now round 4 is our final round, and it's going to be worked 100% in half double crochets. So we start by making a chain of 1, And then we're working into that stitch just underneath our chain 1 with 1 half double crochet, and we're going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 3. So that's 1, 2, and number 3. Then going to work 2 half double crochets into each of the next 2 stitches. So that's 1 and 2, and the same again in the next stitch, 1 and 2. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 23 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3. Once you've worked your 23 half double crochets, we're going to increase into the next 3 stitches by working 2 half double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Each time we're placing 2 half double crochets into the same stitch. That's 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and for a third time we increase again, 1 and 2. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, which will give us a nice straight toe shape. So that's 2, 3, and 4. We then work 1. We then increase into the next 3 stitches by working 2 half double crochets into each of the next 3. That's 1 lot of 2, 1, and there's 2 lots of 2, and again 3 lots of 2. We're then going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the next 21 stitches. So work your 21 half double crochets and I'll meet you after that. Once you've worked your 21 half double crochets, you should have 1 final stitch remaining, and we're going to increase by working 2 half double crochets into that final stitch. We can then slip stitch into that first half double crochet that we made, ignoring our slip stitch and our chain 1, and that will finish this sole. I'm going to make a little chain 1 ready to fasten off. And I'm just going to bring my hook through to make a little knot, and I'm going to place a stitch marker into that stitch that we joined before I weave that end in and lose where I joined. At the end of round 4, you should have a total stitch count of 68 stitches around. Now, if you are making the slouchy slipper boots that follow on from this pattern, you are going to need 2 soles per foot, so a total of 4 soles, because we are going to join those together in the first part of our pattern. If you're making this just as a standalone to work on any other pattern, you are good to go. Just get that end woven in. You can snip that one in if you've woven it in at the back, or you can use it to close these holes, whichever you prefer. So thank you for joining me for this tutorial. If you do need to see any of the other sizes, don't forget they are linked in the description box below. If not, I will see you in the next video.